there, happy Wednesday everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining day 3 of Brexit Bootcamp. I am your host Alex Wyatt from simplyvat.com, and we have just come off the back of 2 really informative days covering customs and VAT. They aren't easy subjects to dive into, but we're getting some great questions. So thank you so much for those who've asked, and keep it up today with our new instructors. So today we have quite the lineup. We have Philipp from InterCultural Elements, Alex from OnBuy.com, and last but definitely not least is Phil from Frugo. So we will be covering entering new markets, diversifying your business, localization, and everything you need to know in between. This is one of the key topics over the bootcamp because the end of the transition period will bring new challenges that force you to evaluate your business and where you want to go. Whether that is expanding into new markets and creating a new supply chain, or just diversifying your listings. I've been speaking to a few different clients of ours who just don't think there's a big enough market in the EU to continue their businesses, and that's absolutely fine. But then it comes down to how are you going to grow your business? So it's all about diversification. For someone like me who doesn't typically shop on Amazon, you need to go where you're going to get the footfall. So that means diversifying your products. If you've joined over the last 2 days, you will know that you can join the YouTube live page to ask your questions live in the chat box. If this is your first time joining us, make sure you have clicked into the YouTube page where you can actually ask your questions. You would have been sent a link in your email that would take you directly to YouTube. So please take a moment, click into the YouTube page. And once you're here, please say hello in the comment box just to know that you are there and that it is working. So we'll give everyone a minute to get into the YouTube page, but in the meantime, I'm going to add everyone in here and say hello to our speakers for the day. So coincidentally, we've just connected that there's 2 Alexes and 2 Philipps today. So hopefully we won't get too confused between everyone. But hello, guys. Thank you so much for joining us, and welcome to the live stream Brexit Bootcamp.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
My pleasure. So it's great to have everyone. So the order of that we're going to run into today is we're going to start with Philipp from InterCultural Elements. We're going to go then into Alex Huntley from OnBuy.com, and then Phil from Frugo. So if you have specific questions that you want answered by a specific speaker, just plop their name down in the chat box so we can make sure that we are answering them directly. So there's a few people now that are starting to write in saying hello. So we have Alana here. Shibu is back. Hi, Shibu. Okay, so oh, perfect. We have the last 2 days was so good. So hopefully today we're going to give you lots more insight. So thank you for tuning in. So I'm going to first hand over to Philipp. We're going to get him on the screen and his slides here. And we're just going to dive right into it. So Philipp, if you want to give a bit of a background about you and InterCultural Elements, and I'll let you take it away.
Definitely, will do. So first of all, hi everyone. As Alex already mentioned, my name is Philipp. I work for InterCultural Elements, and yeah, to be quite essential about it, our mission statement is to help online retailers expand into new countries, onto new marketplaces. We have been doing that for actually to the T, 13 years. Tomorrow is our 13th anniversary, so that's kind of like a funny coincidence. First and foremost, Alex, Simply VAT, thank you so much for having us. Always fun to work with you guys on stuff like this. And yeah, what are we going to do today? We want to talk about essentially how you can take things to the next level, export to new markets, get into new countries, onto new marketplaces, but also kind of to give a bit of a summary on how 2020 has kind of gone for our clients. As I mentioned, we are an e-commerce service provider. Now, normally you have to suffer through our sales pitch here. Today, I'm going to basically make it so that I can kind of peel back the curtain a little bit. So I can share some experiences that our clients had over the last year. How did they manage the whole pandemic situation? and what learnings can you kind of take away from that situation for future reference for situations like the Brexit as well. And then we're also going to have a bit of a section on how to actually expand and what to look out for from a language side, from a language point of view. So let's just jump straight into it. 2020, what's been happening? I asked that question to a couple of our clients when the whole pandemic wave hit, and we created a couple of different case studies here. They're currently still internal. I can share the information. I cannot really share the companies, but I will share the information regardless. So I brought 3 case studies today. How did our clients handle this? And the first example is basically a sporting goods company that has been established in the 1980s. And they've been a long-standing client for us for translations. And essentially, there was a very specific problem that they encountered, mainly that with the closing of shops, their whole distribution network on the brick and mortar side sort of collapsed. So anybody who really bought their products to resell them obviously was suddenly out of the opportunity to sell these items. And that basically meant that no new orders were coming in and they were kind of at a standstill. At the same time, what also happened was that the people that they have very good business relationships with, like basically the distributors, were also unable to, how should I say, basically pay their bills. And if you get into that situation, then you have a choice to make as a company. Will you be the company that forces invoices in the pandemic, or will you be a bit more lenient? And something that we did notice here was that the efforts that the company had taken online really made this decision a whole lot easier. They are very well set up. They're on Marketplace, they're on Amazon, they are on Zalando, they're on a couple of other platforms, also internationally. And luckily, there was a significant increase in sales there. And that basically enabled them to be a bit more, shall I say, lenient with invoices and stuff. And they were in the very lucky situation that enabled them to literally go, all right, hey, we know this is tough. We know this is a bad situation. Take your time. We'll get our money eventually. I'm sure we will. And nobody had to be laid off. Everyone's still in business. This goes for every one of the companies that I'm talking about today. And in a very straightforward way, a diversified portfolio actually saved the day here. Because imagine if they were just a brick and mortar store, they would not be selling anything. So that's the first wonderful example for the simple fact that being diverse and being online really helped in that situation, and it will only continue to help. The second company is an online seller of coffee supplies. We've been working with them since 2017, and they have seen very decent growth in that time. They sell very specific items, so they sell things like coffee filter papers, cleaning chemicals for coffee machines, and basically espresso pan handles. So there's a whole bunch of very specified barista equipment here, and our main concern for them was that all of the cafes and restaurants ordering from them would be basically falling away as a potential source of income. They were very well diversified. They are on Amazon, they are on eBay, they have their own web shop, which has been made to look very, very pretty and is online in a number of different countries. But we were still kind of worried for them, and still they actually managed to increase their sales quite a bit. Like the actual raw number of sales was quite good. To the point, and this is the negative aspect of this, where they couldn't really keep up with the orders. It went to the point where the owner of the company was picking parcels like it was the good old days. And the issue was also that the items that they were selling were not their margin leaders. So they had to work overtime just to keep afloat selling these items that are normally not very profitable for them. Luckily, that issue also lifted itself quite soon. But that was a bit of a weird situation where they had sales and a huge increase, but they still barely broke even and managed to get through the crisis. Wonderful situation still, very lucky to be online and very lucky to be on multiple marketplaces. As a bit of a disclaimer for them, they were using both the Amazon Solution Service, FBA, and they were fulfilling themselves. And as you might have heard, FBA was unavailable for a very long time during the pandemic. So another thing, once again, being diverse really helped you because they could still jump in, fulfill the orders themselves. Others were not as lucky, and that is something that our third customer learned. And they run a very, in the best of times, very profitable business. They are an Australian online seller of bottles and water filters and filter shower heads. And essentially what they're doing is they're drop shipping. So they are producing the items, they then send them directly to Amazon without actually touching them. So they are coming from the supplier, they're being equipped, and then they go directly into the FBA warehouse. What happened here was Amazon stopped using allowing the FBA service for non-specific items. And yeah, water bottles are anything but essential. So they were now stuck with the inventory that they still had in the warehouse. And as that depleted, their sales dwindled, and suddenly they basically went to very close to zero income in a very short amount of time. And that is something that was very scary to them and to us, because we obviously always worry about our clients. And I think it drives the point home quite well that this is a business that did not really diversify over the borders of Amazon, and that is potentially very dangerous. I'm not saying that Amazon did not do the right thing by sort of limiting FBA and limiting it to essential items, but for a business that is exclusively running on these FBA shipments and on this FBA delivery service, that is actually quite dangerous. And that is, once again, why we say diversify, diversify, diversify. Right, and this is kind of like the main takeaway from this. So this is where we kind of go on. The main point that I can take away from the e-commerce world in 2020 is that it is absolutely predictable, unpredictable, I mean, I'm sorry. And so the main ways that we have discovered you can kind of counteract this basically unpredictability is to have an online presence, be it your own website, be it a marketplace like Amazon, and getting as many of the countries live as possible, but also going to other marketplaces besides Amazon, places like Frugo and OnBuy. And I don't want to steal anyone's thunder. I'm sure they're going to tell you all about it in just a minute. But that's really what we tell all of our clients. You should diversify to the best of your ability. And sometimes that is not particularly far, but as far as you can go without overextending is always what you should be aiming to do. And our special area in that sort of situation actually is the language aspect of everything. We are a dedicated e-commerce service provider. We offer specialized e-commerce translations. So that's exactly what we are going to talk about, because at the end of the day, your language, your data, and the language you present it in is going to be your bread and butter. You can have the best product in the world. If the data is not right, you're going to have a hard time making a proper impact on the market that you target. So we're going to talk about two things. We're going to talk about actual translating and localization. And I'm going to explain the difference in a minute. First and foremost, a question that we get very often, and it's easy to save money there: how much care do my translations actually need? Can I get away with a machine translation or full human translation? And that's a difficult question to answer without seeing your data. It is possible to get away with a machine translation with a human review aspect with very simple products. If you have a couple of t-shirts in 5 sizes and 5 colors, that can work quite well. And you might be saving a whole lot of money doing this. But as soon as items become a lot more complex than that, you will enter a point, or you will basically get to a point where it will be absolutely necessary to have proper human translations done. So just keep that in mind. If you're wondering if your items are suitable for a human review translation or not, just ask me after this. I'm sure we can sort it out and Alex can make the introduction. Let's assume you can actually get away, or you have to go full human translation. What should you basically take into consideration here? What can go wrong if you go with automated translations? There's 2 examples that we always kind of like to bring out. Stuff that isn't really supposed to be translated is getting translated. So Under Armour, we have seen become a literal set of armor in Germany, and the same goes for machine translation sizes. This is actually one of our oldest clients, Biker's Ears, and they've given us permission to share this. They went with an automated translation a couple of years back, and this automated translation messed up the sizes. And they had just basically expanded into Amazon in Europe. And because they had the wrong size and everything, they had like a ginormous return rate, which basically killed their expansion in one swoop. So if you're going with machine translation, make sure that the sizes are adequate, because that is still something that, the human review part of it would have to catch, and the software would probably be unable to do that. So be careful there. Once again, if you need advice on what translation is needed and what isn't, feel free to contact us. Let's assume that you actually have to look out for an actual human translator. What would you have to look out for? Very easy. First of all, native translators, preferably in the target language. You can't really teach cultural knowledge, and we've noticed that time and time again. All of the translators that we employ are from the respective countries that they translate into. The second part is, and that is a bit of a cost-saving factor more than anything else, proofreading by a second translator should be included in the price. Oftentimes that is a separate cost, sometimes a little bit hidden. You can't really do a proper job of translation without a proper proofreading, because that's not just a spelling and grammar check, that is also making sure that the translation flows properly. You put a whole lot of effort into your data, and then you run the risk of basically messing it up by not having a fourth pair of eyes on it. So keep that in mind. The next thing is, when it comes to pricing for the translations, it should always be clear that if the duplicates, if you have repeated text in there, that should be free of charge, or at the very least discounted. Like if you just go to a translation service provider and they give you a per word price without looking at the data so much, you're definitely in the wrong place. And the next thing is specifically for e-commerce sellers. If you're on Amazon or marketplaces that allow parent and child relationships, make sure that that is also being considered. When we translate, we just translate the parent and rebuild the children. Some marketplaces allow us to do that, others don't. But if we can do it, that is also a major time saver for us. And at the end of the day, a money saver for you. So that's just our piece of advice when it comes to that sort of thing. And now I think I'm already closing in on the end here. Last thing, localization versus translation. What is the difference here? It's a very simple difference. So for us, a translation is the mechanical process of taking a dictionary and translating a text bit by bit. And that's all fine and well, but you also need to localize it. And for us, that is the cultural aspect. So we don't even have to leave the English realm to kind of talk about this. In which countries would you call a pair of sneakers trainers, or vice versa? In Germany, we call them sneakers. We love our Anglicisms. So that's something that you have to live with in Germany. But which Anglicism should you be using? And then the next thing, the word anorak for like a rain parker. I wasn't aware, or like I haven't really seen that used in countries outside of Germany. I'm not quite sure, but I've never heard an American use the word anorak, for example. And if you're then going to Germany and you notice that this is like one of the main terms that is actually being used to describe a product like that, then you're missing out on very precious search volume on whatever marketplace you choose. So basically spelling and terminology is really important. I already kind of went into that. Is it sneakers? Is it trainers? Is it khakis? Is it chinos? But there's also other factors like sizes and currencies. For example, if you basically take an amount of pounds and put it into euros, more often than not, you're going to arrive at a very weird sum of like 11 euros 49 or something. Even a simple step as putting that to, I don't know, 11.99 or 14.99 makes your listing look a lot more inviting, and it gives you a little bit of extra margin. And it does not automatically basically out you as a foreign seller. Sizes, I already mentioned why that is important. It's a simple comfort thing. Me as a German, I would look for the number 34, 38, or 42. Don't come at me with size 6 or 10. I have no clue what you're talking about. I mean, I know because I do this for a living, but if I was a normal shopper, that would probably not be the greatest, the greatest situation for me. Another thing is the title structure or data structure in general. Every platform, every marketplace, every even website system is different. So you need to be aware that you need to adjust your data for the marketplace that you want to target. This is a mock-up listing that we did for Amazon, and we actually hit some hilarious translation issues in there. It doesn't really apply to the situation, but know what you need to do, know how long the title should be, know how it should be built, keep character limits for bullet points in mind and product descriptions, and just make sure that whichever marketplace you go onto, you're fulfilling their requirements, basically. And we can help with that, but more often than not, the marketplaces are also quite happy to help with that. So don't just charge in, really think about this. The next thing, search terms. What should I put in the backend column on Amazon, or in the pay-per-click sort of columns in Google, or even in the search algorithm on other marketplaces? Which terms do I need? Do I use thongs, the New Zealand term for flip-flops? Do I use jandals? Do I use flip-flop, which is, by the way, a protected name in Germany? What do I describe my product as? And what would a German, for example, native speaker look for if they were to go online to find a pair of flip-flops? Another thing that helps with that is the category and browse tree nodes. In Germany, we have the weird thing where Stiefel are a separate thing, but boots do not really equal shoes, but they also don't really equal Stiefel. So do your homework when it comes to that sort of thing. What is the appropriate place for my item in this country? I give you one last example. In Germany, we have a category called Baumarkt, basically construction market, Home Depot. And there's quite a bit of overlap there between the house and garden category in other countries. And other countries don't really have Baumarkt. So when does my item need to go into Baumarkt? When can I get away with house and garden? That's all kind of things that you should be aware of if you're expanding into a country and onto other marketplaces. The same thing is a cultural adjustment. Like, do I need to utilize different terms for different countries? We have a client or had a client that sold mouth guards, and every country that we put them on, we put different sort of search terms in there. For American, as you put in there things like American football, boxing, mixed martial arts. The same goes for the UK. But you shouldn't forget the ice hockey search term for Canada. It's basically national religion over there. And in Germany, we do love our handball, and a lot of them wear mouth guards. So you do want to include that. And I'm not really saying that these are examples that you should jot down right away. I'm just trying to kind of sensitize you to the fact that these are the thought processes that you should have. Or, and this is the blatant sales pitch, hire someone who does those thought processes for you. I'm not quite sure how I'm doing with time. I think I'm closing in on the end. So I'm just going to say thank you, and I am open for questions now or after or whenever.
I think, well, what we'll do is I will answer the questions just at the end, if that's okay. So
yeah,
we can
perfect.
put the presentation in. So next, thank you so much, Philip. I'm just going to bring on Alex here from OnBuy.com, and I'm going to share your screen here. And you can, we're seeing all of us. So Alex is from OnBuy.com. OnBuy.com is a UK marketplace. And oh, Alex, I don't know if you want to unmute yourself.
Oh, there we go. There we go. I was talking then and wondering why I was getting no response.
That's okay. Do you want to share your screen with the slides on?
Yeah, I am currently sharing that.
Oh, we can just see us, as you can see on the screen. It's a tunnel.
Really?
Yes.
I'm on there now.
Oh, well, I mean, it's just currently a tunnel. So how about we switch over to Phil quickly, and then we'll get your screen set up in the meantime.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Well, Phil, you are on. We'll bring you on here. Phil is from Frugo. There.
Hi. Right. Can you hear me?
We can hear you and see your screen. So it's
perfect.
all
Good. That's good. That's good. I will let you continue with that intro, and then I'll step in.
Yeah, so Phil is from the marketplace Frugo. Now they do things a bit differently on Frugo than what you would typically see on a marketplace, which Phil is going to definitely go into as well. But they kind of pride themselves on having no setup costs when you go on to Frugo. So it's going to be quite an interesting presentation because, you know, Phil is going to dive into why you should be selling on Frugo, what makes it so easy, and then which markets that you can potentially target. So I will leave it to you, Phil, and you can take it away.
Thank you very much, Alex, and good afternoon to everyone. So that was a great introduction. Being given a 15-minute slot, I don't think I've ever done anything in 15 minutes, so this will be a world record if I can actually wrap this up. But I've sort of done a dummy run, so hopefully we'll be okay. So yes, Frugo, the global marketplace. And I'm just going to very quickly step back to 2006, which is when Frugo was first, the first keystrokes were taken to start building our global marketplace. And we had a vision, and that was to make it as easy to sell cross-border as it is to sell domestically. Now, I'm not going to expand on that at the moment. I'm going to leave that, and we're going to come back to that vision that we had in 2006 in a few slides' time and see whether or not we all feel whether or not we've actually managed to achieve that. So how do we do it? We sell in 46 countries. We invest in the search traffic. We do all the currency conversion. We translate up to 28 languages. We always have the local currency and payment methods, and we have dedicated account managers. But let's just drop into each of those individually. So one single integration on Frugo will give you access to buyers looking for your products in up to 46 countries. And since launch, Frugo has continued to expand our international coverage and now has localized marketplaces in over 40 countries. And each site provides a fully localized customer experience. We launched 14 new countries last year. That was our biggest country expansion in a year for quite a while, and we will continue to expand. But if you're thinking, oh my word, you know, I only have to give one single integration and then I'm going to sell in 46 countries, that's not the case. All that Frugo asks is that you are able to sell to 2 of our international territories, and you can expand from there. We make cross-border trading very, very easy. We use automatic translation technology and translating your content into up to 28 different languages. Now, these translations, so if we just step back to what Philip was saying, without a doubt, human translation is always going to be better than machine translation. However, with us being in so many countries, that could be a very, very expensive process. But the translations that we generated are using multiple translation engines, and they have to be good enough to meet Google's quality standards. Come on to the reason why that is with Google in a minute. But they can beat us with a very, very big stick if what they display through Google Shopping, if we're serving one of your products that goes through to a product page on Frugo, if those translations aren't of a good quality. So the service that ICE provide is absolutely first class. We partner with InterCultural Elements. We know them very well. They know Frugo very well. And without a doubt, human translations will always be better. But what we do with the very best when it comes to the machine translation companies out there. Now, this is something that's pretty unique. It's Frugo that invests in all of the search traffic. So 97% of all of Frugo's traffic comes through paid search. By far the most significant contributor of that is Google Shopping. So what we're doing is that we are bidding on your products, display those prominently within a Google Shopping feed. The customer, the shopper, and I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with Google Shopping, but the shopper is then going to take a look at the 4 or 5 products that are displayed, take a look at the images, take a look at the price, and they select the one that they feel best matches what they are looking for. Now, if that happens to be Frugo, they're going to click on that and they're going to come through to your product on Frugo's on the Frugo global marketplace. We don't take our shoppers through to a category page. We don't take them through to a page that says shoppers have bought this, bought this. We're just very, very focused on displaying the product that you supplied us, with the pricing that you've given us, with the shipping rates that you've given us, and of course that will have been translated into the shopper's local language, and it won't surprise you, of course, that it will be displayed in their local currency. But it is our investment. You don't need to spend any additional money on optimization on Frugo. You don't need to spend any money on running advertising campaigns on Frugo. It's us that are very, very good at driving paid traffic through to a dedicated product page. And we are always very, very confident that we've got a very engaged in-market shopper that is going to be looking at your products. We always have the local currency and payment methods. This is absolutely intrinsic when we're opening up new countries. One of the biggest and the longest tasks that is involved when we open up a new country, and as I said, we did 14 last year, is making sure that we've got the local payment methods that the shopper would expect to see. If you're a UK shopper, as long as we can see some Visa on there, some MasterCard, some PayPal, maybe a couple of others, then that's fine. But different countries, the shoppers there would expect to see different payment methods, and that's a very, very big piece that we have to do. But it has a huge impact on diminishing cart abandonment that the shopper in Belgium or the shopper in Saudi Arabia is seeing the sort of payment method that they're used to using on a day-to-day basis when shopping online. You sell in so automatic currency conversion. You provide us with one price per SKU, which is in your native currency. We take that and we do all the forex on that, and it's us that does the conversion, and it's us that's taking the risk. We'll come on to our commission levels, but basically you will always we will always take the payment in the shopper's local currency, and we will always pay you in yours. And you will always know exactly what you're going to get on each sale that we make. That will not fluctuate. It will always be at the price you gave us in your currency minus our commissions. And something that's also very, very nice about Frugo is that we're not a faceless marketplace. Every retailer gets a dedicated account manager. And that is someone that will work with you as you're onboarding. We have a tech ops team that you'll be able to communicate with directly during your integration. We have multiple integration partners, and we have multiple partners that will also be able to just assist you with your integration, of which InterCultural Elements would be one of them. And then we're also there to help you develop your account on Frugo as well. So we're not a ticket system. There will be a real person that you can send an email to, and that real person will get back to you. So those are the steps that we take to making cross-border trading very, very easy. But if we just go back to what I said at the beginning, is that what our 2006 vision was to make selling cross-border as easy for retailers as it is for them to sell domestically. Let's take a look as to whether or not you feel that we've achieved that. So the cross-border e-commerce as a percentage of total, apologies, my Slack's on there, so I don't know if that's just popped up on the screen. So apologies about that. So cross-border e-commerce as a percentage of total e-commerce worldwide. I don't know if anybody knows what that statistic is, but it is 22%. If we now take a look at what the cross-border e-commerce as a percentage of total sales on Frugo, and that's 85%. So 85% of all sales on Frugo are cross-border. That is a shopper from one country buying from a retailer in another. It is a quite staggering statistic. And we have obviously systems, internal systems, where we can see the sales that are trickling in or coming in. Sorry, I shouldn't say the word trickling in, though, that are coming in second by second, and it shows where the shopper is, and it shows where the seller is. And quite often to us, we don't understand why that French shopper might be buying a shampoo from an Australian seller, but it happens day in and day out, and we're real living proof that is exactly what can happen. So we have that vision to make it as easy for sellers to sell cross-border as it is to domestically, and with 85% of our sales being that kind of shows that we've achieved that. And something that you might find interesting as well is that if you, as a seller, if you wanted to list on Frugo but didn't want to appear on your own domestic country, say you've got a big Google shopping campaign going on in the UK and you're only interested in cross-border, then we're very, very happy to switch the UK off as a territory and only focus on your cross-border sales. So I'll take a quick look at the spread of countries, our top 10 countries for 2019. UK, number one. But you'll see a cluster of countries here that are quite close to each other: Switzerland, Sweden, Norway. You'll see Denmark in there as the top 10. We did actually have a number of months last year where both Switzerland and Sweden were actually generating more GTV at Frugo than the UK. And when you look at the Nordics on the whole, they are always collectively are always generating more GTV. About 30% of our GTV is coming from the UK, 70% of the rest of our GTV is coming from the rest of the world. So just look at us as a cross-border piece. Yes, the UK may be our number one shopping country, but if you're a UK seller and you're looking to expand easily and quickly, then we are, we're a great option for that. Top 10 categories, so you can see on screen there at the moment. Quick rundown: apparel and accessories, health and beauty, home and garden, electronics, animals, pet supplies, toys and games, media, sporting goods, arts and entertainment, and hardware. I flip through those very quickly because I think it's really important to say here that if you have products that are not in our top 10, it doesn't mean that we can't sell for you. Almost every month, we start generating significant sales for a new retailer in a category or with a product that we haven't traditionally sold well in before. And this is because it's the demand for your products that dictate your potential for success. If the demand is there, if people are searching for those products, then we're very, very confident of finding your shoppers. So yes, we have categories that traditionally sell more each month than others, but we've got many, many success stories of sellers that have joined us and they've in a category or a product that previously has effectively gone from being a zero for us to a hero product. So I just don't want people to think that this is where we're at. We will listen and talk to every seller, no matter what you're selling. Take a quick look here. You can see a screen which is showing a lady's dress that's listed on the Frugo UK site. The payment methods that you can see there, it's in sterling. And then if we go take a look at this exact product in Sweden, I think that is, then you can see that the payment methods have expanded significantly. You can see that it's been that it's in euro. But the most interesting thing about this particular product is it wasn't a product from a UK seller. This was a product from a German seller. So if we just go back one on there, that actually is Frugo displaying a product that had come into us initially from a German seller in Deutsch, in euro. And then what we've showing here is that product now on Frugo in Sweden. Quick look at our commission model. We work on a 15% commission plus a 2.35% fund processing fee. It is a no sale, no fee. No additional charges for marketing, no additional charges for translation, no additional charges for Forex. All the fraud protection is ours. Quite simply, it's very, very difficult for you to sell a product on Frugo that is not profitable to yourself. Unless you've managed to get your own profit margins wrong, which is something that's beyond our control. Effectively, if you're on there and we make a sale for you, then you know that product has been sold at a profit to you as a seller. And finally, oh no, not finally, let's just take, this is actually a really, really important slide. Let's take a quick look at the requirements that we would be looking for from a potential Frugo seller. So the absolute requirements, we need GTINs or the other equivalents of those. Adequate data. I'll expand on that a little bit more. The ability to ship abroad to at least 2 countries. So as I said, yes, we're in 46. We love it when sellers come on and say, look, we can ship everywhere, but to at least two overseas countries, and products that are allowed by Google. We recommend that you're price competitive, goes without saying, but the fact is that all our traffic is, or so much of our traffic is driven through a price comparison service effectively, so your price needs to be competitive. We look for a large catalogue of in-demand products. It's very rare that Frugo is going to be able to sell every single one of your SKUs. So the more SKUs we have, the more SKUs that we can throw at the proverbial fan, then the more that we're confident that we're actually going to be able to find those heroes within your catalogue that we can sell in all our different countries. And low shipping costs. And I'm very happy to talk about that if there's any questions on shipping and what we recommend there in the questions afterwards. So finally, just a little bit of trumpet blaring, whatever it is, flag waving, just announced on Sunday, but for the second year in a row, just so that you know that you're, with a really, really good expanding marketplace for the second year in a row. Frugo was announced in the Times Britain's fastest growing private tech companies. That's the top 100. If we looked at the top 50, we would have got in that for the last 2 years. And actually, if you were to draw a line just above Nottingham, then we would be the #1 fastest growing tech company, private tech company in the UK for the last 2 years. So whether or not, that's beating all the companies out of Manchester and Liverpool and everything else above. So we're growing fantastically. To be in there, you need to have shown 3 years of consistent growth. But it's been an absolute joy being part of this and learning and understanding week by week more about everything that goes on and just working with fantastic sellers. So that's it. Alex, I'm not sure if I managed to do that in the 15 minutes, but thank you very much.
That's okay. Thank you. Thanks so much, Phil. Now, we do have a few Frugo specific questions, but we'll quickly go on to Alex from OnBuy, and then we will then dive into those questions just after. So I am seeing them come through, guys, but I will wait just so we can get our last presentation through. So thank you so much, Phil, for joining us. And now I'm going to switch on over to Alex. We got his screen up and running. So thank you so much. And thanks everyone for your patience on the technical difficulties. So a bit of a background about OnBuy. So they have about thousands of sellers with millions of products, and OnBuy is one of the fastest growing marketplaces in the world. And they're a direct alternative to Amazon. And I think one of your core kind of sales pitches or USPs is really that you guys focus on the sellers rather than, like Amazon, where they just kind of ignore you. When I was speaking to the CEO, Cass, back in January, he was saying, we want to help sellers, we want to help them grow and expand. And actually just hearing that from the top, was such a great kind of, experience compared to what we're typically used to. So, Alex, I will hand it over to you, and
Thank you. Yeah, thanks, Alex. Thanks for Simply That for obviously inviting us here today. I'm going to just go through a bit about who we are. I'll cover a bit of our history and some sort of USPs for both our buyers and our sellers, and also touch on our international expansion, which is quite an exciting time for us. So, who are we? OnBuy is one of the fastest growing marketplaces in the world. We were launched in 2016, and we're a B2C online marketplace. So we cover thousands of categories. As you can see there, everything from sort of pet supplies to furniture to tech to tools. We cover pretty much all of it. We basically connect sellers and buyers through a trusted and viable platform, and we help customers find great deals and online retailers to help grow their business. So our history, as Alex touched on there, our founder and CEO was Cass, and he sort of had the idea to improve the current marketplace offering. So being a sort of fair and transparent marketplace, that would work for its sellers and not against them. So we are not a retailer. We do not sell our own products, meaning all of our marketing efforts are spent on our sellers. When they sell, it's good for all of us. Since then, we've expanded really quickly since 2016. We've got now over 25 million active products, and that covers, we've got around 5,000 active sellers and 8 million plus shoppers. And in terms of our team, we now employ over 50 full-time staff, which span from development side to content and marketing to account managers. Every aspect we cover. So sellers, if you're wondering who we onboard, we welcome everyone. We work with household names and some of the largest brands, in the globe, to also smaller retailers and niche retailers who may only have a few SKUs or have their own branded products that they will obviously want to help push through us. With fees, again, this is part of our fair and transparent marketplace. So we offer the same fees to every single seller, regardless of size, whether you're turning over 50 million in GMV in the world to turning over a few £100 a month. It's we cover and cater for everyone. And again, with brands, we're able to work with brands in a really close way to optimize these and push these with the help of our content and marketing team to make the most of them. And to get their products out there. So the OnBuy seller benefits. So like I touched on with our fees, we try and keep it as simple as possible. So we charge 5% for consumer electronics and we charge 9% for everything else. That's excluding VAT. That's, with the idea to simplify things, and also all we ask is for sellers really to come on board and price accommodating our selling fees. That should be minimizing their it shouldn't minimize their margins in any way, and we're then able to obviously market these products effectively and aggressively. We have a unique relationship with PayPal, so we're the only marketplace in the UK to offer immediate payment. So as soon as your sold item is sent off and is marked as dispatched, the PayPal will automatically release those funds, and they're ready for you to withdraw. With our monthly account, so it's similar to other marketplaces, we do also have a monthly subscription. However, we have a unique offering in this, so essentially there's no risk. So if sellers do not make over £500 per calendar month in sales, then we'll waiver the following month subscription. So that eliminates the burden of sellers having a monthly recurring risk. And with this account, it includes unlimited listings, no listing fees, and that's all your marketing included, and also the use of OnBuy deals. So we'll be able to really market your products and get your best offerings and put them in the faces of our customers, whether that be on home pages or newsletters or through our social channels. With PayPal, that also includes the confidence of both buyers and sellers. So everyone is covered here by the PayPal seller protection. What I touched on earlier was obviously that we do not compete with our sellers. So as we're not a retailer, we are focused on everything on our sellers. Without them, we would be nothing. So we're trying to work with you here, not against you. And dedicated UK support. So again, each seller would have their own account management and support teams. There are internal ticketing systems where sellers can get more technical help, but our account managers are there to really offer support to see how we can improve sales or run good deals with them. It really does vary, and we're here on every aspect to obviously help them grow. The buyer benefits, it really relates to what I've just gone on through the seller benefits. So obviously our choice, this is ever increasing. Obviously we've got 26 million active products. This is increasing daily. So sort of watch that space on that. With the low prices, again, with our fees, these transfer into lower prices for our buyers. So naturally, they can find the product through OnBuy through maybe the same seller, and it would be a more competitive price. OnBuy deals. So again, what I touched on with our sellers. So this highlights our sellers' best offers. They're promoted and sort of have a even heavier price reduction on them, and these can be found through our e-newsletters and social media. Secure shopping. So obviously for a buyer's perspective, they have confidence there in PayPal. They're eligible for PayPal buyer protection for 180 days. So really, there's no risk for them to obviously purchase through us, and it's a household name that everyone trusts. And again, which I've said over and over, but it's obviously about us being a fair and transparent marketplace, and buyers knowing that we're supporting their sellers. So our growth is quite considerable, to be honest with you. It was only a couple of weeks ago that we announced our 24,000% growth in 4 years. This is unbelievable, and to be honest with you, it indicates to our sellers the potential that they have selling through us. It is absolutely huge, and this is before our heavy Q4 marketing. So we've just allocated 5 million for our Q4 marketing here in the UK, and also our international expansion, which I'm going to touch on in a minute. But sellers wanting to get involved, and actually what Philipp mentioned earlier about diversifying onto different marketplaces, 100%, and that is exactly what we say. You know, don't keep all your eggs in one basket. If you can, join different marketplaces, get your products seen to more consumers. It can only be a good thing. It may just take a little bit of your time to do that. So our channel systems, obviously, you know, sellers don't want to join a marketplace if the integrations are not there. We're actively integrating with new channel systems and partners. So here are just a few of these that we're currently integrated with. There are many more, and you know, if you're a seller there and there's an integration that you need, you can contact us and we'll definitely look into that for you. Fulfillment partners. So this is a relatively new thing for OnBuy. Obviously, as I mentioned, we're not a retailer and we don't have our own fulfillment centers. So what we've done is we're building a fulfillment network. So these are essentially trusted partners that are integrated with us. And you know, a seller that uses them is able to join OnBuy, integrate with their fulfillment network, and obviously all the orders will be picked, packed, and dispatched directly there. It helps our customer experience in terms of orders arriving on time, and you know, being able to track these efficiently. And you know, overall, this is something that's really exciting and something that we're going to be doing internationally as well. So our expansion plan. So we're now launching into more than 40 new online trading locations by the end of 2020. We're going to be targeting English-speaking countries to begin with, and that is going to include the likes of USA, Canada, New Zealand, Australia. So we're going to be replicating our OnBuy model there. It will allow sellers to have one selling platform that they can indicate where they want to ship to, and we'll do the rest. And then obviously, as you can see there, by 2023, we're going to be in 140 new locations, getting the OnBuy name out there, and obviously our sellers' products. So international expansion for sellers. We obviously want OnBuy to work as a viable, efficient international sales channel for all retailers. So what we'll be offering is optional auto currency conversion, optional auto translation, tax compliance, and obviously our fulfillment partners. And it's interesting to know that when we go into these new countries, we're going to be forming partnerships in terms of fulfillment centers, in terms of channel systems, and we're going to make sure that everything that our sellers need, they're going to have. And obviously this is where Simply VAT comes in. So we appreciate that handling cross-border VAT obligations can be complicated. I wouldn't even want to go there. So it's obviously good that we're partnering up with companies like Simply VAT, who will obviously take the stress out of compliance and obviously can support retailers as we expand globally. That is everything from me. And obviously any questions, I'm more than happy to answer.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Alex.
Thank you.
I'm going to bring everyone else onto the screen here so we can answer some questions. I'm going to start at the top here. So our first question is, as a UK business, how do we look to target customers in France after Brexit? So I think this person, I guess if we kind of twist it a bit, how would you optimize sales post-Brexit to customers in France through maybe your own marketplaces, or Philipp, if you can give a few extra tips on targeting.
Sure. So first and foremost, depending on how you've previously targeted French clients or seller buyers before Brexit, there will be some growing pains there. So if you previously used FBA, nobody can really tell you how exactly that's going to look come Brexit. Everything else remains the same. So even in a worst case scenario, the pan-European realm would still be intact, just minus the UK. in all likelihood. So you would just, if you're using FBA, have to ship into a different warehouse. Otherwise, it's just your own fulfillment. Have a logistics solution set up that can get your items over there. Make sure you're tax compliant, and then have proper translations that are appropriate for the items that you're selling. Make sure that you choose the product that you're actually bringing over well, if there's actually a market for it. In most cases, there is. And then just make sure that you make it as easy as possible for the French buyer. I know the French are very protective of their language, so issues with the language will probably not go over as well as they might in other countries. So the details matter, I would say. But yeah, go in with a realistic expectation, have proper data, and make sure that you offer native speaking customer service in that country. If you're using Amazon FBA, they will take care of most of that for you in a very good manner. Most people, or like a lot of people, prefer to keep that in their own hand, and we completely appreciate that. But in that case, I would have to say, get someone who can do this on a native speaking level, because especially the French, they like their own language, and rightfully so. In fact, there's a cultural push to protect the language. I don't know if everyone's aware, but there's quotas for what type of music can be on the radio. There can only be such and such a percentage of non-French music there. Something similar goes for movies. So just make sure that you're hitting them where they sit, basically.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that, being Canadian and having the both French and English side. They're very protective of their French. Okay, thank you for that. I have a few Fruugo-specific questions that have popped up here. So is it true that you have to have 2,000 SKUs in order to onboard onto Fruugo? Sure.
Okay, well, we will look at each retailer on their own merits. We have an evaluation process. I think the positive thing to state here is that because all of the investment in generating sales is always Fruugo's, that if we take a seller on, what it means is that we're very, very confident that we can sell your products. I mentioned that the more SKUs that we have, then there's more chance of us finding the SKUs that we'll be able to sell. So we are certainly biased towards larger catalogs, but we absolutely will evaluate each seller on a case-by-case basis. If you're working already, if you're integrating into Fruugo through one of our many integration partners, whether or not that be Limworks or Channel Advisor or Visualsoft or Plenty Markets or on and on and on and on, because then that in itself will certainly give additional advantage to the evaluation process that we go through. So it is a number that we bandy around, but we will look at each seller on their own individual merits and the products that you've got and whether or not we feel that we can sell them.
Perfect. And just one last, this one's a kind of a quick one. You guys, you don't currently offer fulfillment services like Amazon, do you?
So no, there is no FBF, no fulfilled by Fruugo. But what we do is that we lean on the experience of the sellers that we have. 85% of all sales being cross-border means that we've got a lot of sellers with a lot of experience in every single country using fulfillment services that work for them. And we know that as long as the new seller isn't competitive, that experience can be shared with us and that can be shared with the sellers. I think our advice, I mean, look, there's a lot going on. What do we know? Well, the fact is that Fruugo is already perfectly set up for any of the tax compliances and everything that's going to be happening, because it's something that we do already, collecting tax, sales taxes, VATs, whatever they are at the correct rate. But when it comes to logistics, what you should be looking for is a UK, maybe a UK logistics company that can still take your goods in the UK and process them for you, and put those into one of their own EU hubs. We work closely with a number of fulfillment companies that either do that or will be doing that. Alex from OnBuy mentioned Hubu that they work with. That's a company that we work with as well. So I think the key thing here is it doesn't need to be scary. It really does not need to be scary at all. There's going to be some changes, but if you diversify and you're with a marketplace that already knows what they're doing there, then hopefully that process should be that should be nice and straightforward.
Perfect. Okay. And so one of the questions here, sorry, it's a big one. Should we remove the English language from products to sell in the EU and beyond? So for example, greeting cards, should we only sell cards with numbers, or is there a market for products containing the English language within the EU? So this is kind of like a product specific question. I guess when you look to sell on your marketplaces, what can you kind of see? Or should you be localizing languages in each different market? Should you have multiple SKUs for each different language? I don't know if Phil wants to add into this.
Okay, Phil or Philip?
Philip, sorry, Philip.
So interesting example with the greeting cards, because I have received plenty of English language greeting cards in my life. Also, most people that know me know that my English is pretty good, so they probably are not very hesitant to do that. I just go like simple brick and mortar direction, like TK Maxx, for example. We have a lot of those stores in Germany, and they sell exclusively English greeting cards there, and they sell like hotcakes. So if the occasion that you want to give it on is something that also happens in Germany, then there's no reason why you shouldn't be offering those. And also with translating those, oftentimes they're very colloquial, they're like very idiom laden, so most of them might not translate very well either. So I would maybe hold off on the congratulations on your platinum wedding or something, because most people who can enjoy 50 years together might not be very firm in English in Germany. But as more and more people gain the language skills necessary and become more global citizens, I would say there's no reason why you shouldn't be offering English greeting cards in Germany. If you wanted to take this to the next level, I would invite you to do some research and actually find some proper phrasings for German greeting cards, because that's where you can also have some extra markets. But I wouldn't just outright translate your existing ones.
Perfect. Now I have one here for both Alex and Phil Booker. So can you touch on the accounting side of things, in particular the accounting integrations offered with cloud accounting platforms like Xero? So do you guys offer that at the moment? What sort of integrations do you have with accounting platforms? Let's go to Alex first.
Yeah, we don't at the moment, actually, but I know this is something that comes up with our sellers quite a bit. So I am sure when the development time allows, that is something that we would certainly be looking into. I know that a lot of sellers require this, and usually it's a demand kind of thing. Up until now, we've been fine, but yeah, I'm sure in the near future that will certainly be something that we're going to be looking into.
Perfect. And Phil?
Well, I can't score any points on OnBuy there because we don't either. It's not. I think with both OnBuy and with Frugo, we're pure marketplaces. We're not the merchant of record. The sellers are the merchant of record. We're obviously producing all the correct paperwork. At the point of sale for the shopper and also for the seller. We have no integrations. With those particular systems. And I'll be honest, I've not been asked that question before, so I don't know what our plans are for that. So I won't expand any further on that.
Perfect. Okay. So we'll just skip on over. We have another question. Do your platforms allow sellers to offer customers a combined shipping basket? I guess we'll send it back to Alex first.
What do they mean by that as such?
Good question. I would think a combined shipping basket would be maybe actually, Jade, if you're still online, can you clarify this for us, and then we'll come back to your question, if that's okay.
I'm happy to have a stab at our interpretation on that. The answer would be yes. We regularly see. A shopper can be putting in products from different sellers into the same basket. So that would be our interpretation on that. I'm pretty certain that is the case at OnBuy as well.
I wasn't sure if it was going to be as simple as that, but yeah, of course. Of course.
Yeah. But Jade, if we've got that wrong, please, pop another question through, and we'll, see if we can dig any deeper on it.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. So we have a question here. So following yesterday's great session with Louise from Simply VAT, can the marketplaces manage post-transition VAT implications for UK sellers selling into Europe? Now, this is going to be, I'm going to kind of maybe answer for the marketplaces, because marketplaces, technically going into Europe, they will not have the obligation to, collect the VAT on those sales going into Europe. Everything is going to be seen as an export from the UK, and therefore it should be exempt of VAT. And then anything going into Europe is going to be charged with import VAT and then duties and so on, which, like Louise kind of covered, you need to choose who the importer of record is. In the UK, like Louise mentioned yesterday, the marketplaces should be taking on the responsibility of specific sellers, but the marketplaces are still trying to adapt to this at the moment. I know that Frugo does have you guys are collecting taxes at the moment before you give them back over to the sellers, but yeah, until we kind of see exactly how all the different marketplaces are going to implement it and how they're going to collect it on behalf of the customers, especially because in the guidelines, it does not state anything about UK businesses. I guess we'll kind of hold off on that. And I think the best thing to do is to follow our social channels, because we'll be updating, as soon as information comes out from these marketplaces, how exactly they will be managing it.
Can I add to that?
Yep, of course.
Yeah, as a marketplace, we currently, as Alex touched on, we collect the VAT, the sales tax, at the correct amount in the country for that seller, and we pass that back to them. There are changes afoot, as we know that as of the 1st of January for our non-UK sellers, then we will be collecting that VAT as Frugo and passing that to the UK revenue. And similar changes, as you would have learned from the session with Louise yesterday, are imminent in the EU, albeit maybe not possibly as early as July. The key thing from Frugo's perspective is that we already do both. We already have territories such as Australia and such as Norway where we have to do that anyway. And we also have the ability to collect VAT on behalf of the seller and pass it back to them. So we're in an ideal position to be able to pivot and do that. And actually, this is a bold statement to make when I'm in front of Alex Wyatt and Simply VAT. But when Frugo started working with KPMG a number of years back, and they took a look at our understanding of global VAT and our documentation on it, they stated that we actually had more documentation on VAT than themselves, and they hadn't actually stumbled across any entity that had that sort of level of understanding of VAT, other than, of course, Simply VAT themselves.
I was going to say, that speaks really well for KPMG, doesn't it? Awesome. Thank you so much for clarifying. Yeah, because I think it's really important to kind of get into the experience of a seller on your individual platforms. Now, I think I have a question here, and it's going to be covering translation. So when we look at manual translation versus automated translation, or human translation rather than automated translation, so both the platforms have stated you guys have, the automated translations. Now, I just kind of want to, I know translations have come a long way, but I just kind of want to deep dive into the importance of, maybe getting a human translator, or when is that time to invest in a human translator? I don't know, Philip, if you want to kick us off.
Certainly. Basically, I kind of touched on it earlier. The main point that we look at is how complex is the data and how tailored is the data. Sometimes sellers are super proud of their product descriptions, their bullet points, and they have meticulously crafted those, and there's jokes in there, there's puns in there, and it's perfectly tailored, or they paid someone to actually write a kick-ass description, for example. And more often than not, those need to be translated properly, because you cannot really go in and expect to get all of the idioms and all of these sorts of things. They just don't translate well. But if you have an item that is very simple, like if you have a t-shirt in 5 sizes and 10 colors, and if your data is set up the right way, there's no reason why you couldn't get away with an automated translation, as long as someone then goes in and has a proper look at it and makes sure that the grammar is right and makes sure that there's no funny translation mistakes. We have actually started offering something that extends ourselves. As I mentioned earlier, we kind of reserve the judgment on whether or not it is feasible to do it that way for our translators, so the people who will actually then be working on it. If they say it's a go, then we say, sure, let's try it automated. If they say, no, we need the proper one here, then we would generally also reject that sort of request, even if the client is willing to pay us for that, mainly because we cannot vouch for the quality. So that's always a bit of a walk on a tightrope, but I think we have developed over the last 6 months even a pretty good feeling on when we need it and when we don't need it.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you. And I have one last question here. Just to kind of end off on for Alex and Phil, what is the key to a successful launch in a new marketplace? So a successful launch on your individual marketplace, what do sellers need to do in order to, have loads and loads of sales on your individual marketplaces? I guess we'll start with Phil this time, and then we'll end on Alex. Go ahead, Phil.
Quality data, products that are trending. And if that's the case, then the way that we go about finding customers, then if somebody's looking for your product. Now, when I say on the quality data, Frugo are very, very good at finding those shoppers that put in what we call the long tail search, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. So the more that we've got, the more that you put in, then the chances are is the more that you're going to get out. Long tail searches are cheaper to bid on. Hence why it's more profitable for us to focus on those and make sales for our sellers and obviously to make money ourselves. So quality data and trending. But the key is just be on the marketplace. As I say, diversify. There was we had a situation during COVID where it was in Holland, and a Dutch doctor was talking about a particular supplement. If you took it, if you got COVID, then it would lessen the impact of it. We weren't aware of this interview going on, but suddenly there was a rush and a demand for this particular product, and we had one seller that sold 10,000 euros worth of this. We had a lot of sellers that sell out, but the interesting thing was that not one of the sellers that had that supplement that was being made available to those Dutch shoppers was Dutch. All of our sellers were overseas sellers. So that's just it. So if you're not on a marketplace, then that marketplace can't sell your product. So just be there, whether or not it's us, whether or not it's OnBuy, Amazon, eBay.
I think that's such a good point. Yeah, I think, if your 2021 plan does not include diversification, it should be right at the top of your list. And so mark it there now. So Alex, what is the key to a successful launch on OnBuy?
Yeah, really what Phil said, data. We're slightly different, obviously, where we do operate the catalog system. So it may have been created with good data originally, but, if you're creating new products, definitely it makes a huge difference in conversion rates in terms of obviously gaining sales. If you're coming on board, and you've got 5,000 SKUs, coming on and listing your top 5 products that are selling well on a different marketplace may not be the same for OnBuy. Like Frugo, like Amazon, like eBay, we reach a different audience. We've got, a different consumer base. We market through different channels. So, list your entire inventory, price accommodating our selling fees, make use of the services that we've got available in terms of OnBuy deals and working with your account manager. But like these two said here, just get yourself on a marketplace. It's, if there's a channel system that these marketplaces are all integrated with, then why would you not spend the time, get your products listed, integrate the channel system? You've got nothing to worry about apart from, your products reaching a new audience. As simple as that.
Yeah.
Well, I know we've kind of gone well over an hour now, but I just wanted to make sure we got in all the questions and all the content. So if you are watching live, make sure you can you sign up to the day 4. We have one more day left of Brexit Bootcamp where we have a panel discussion with some seasoned sellers talking about how they're preparing for Q4 and Brexit all together. Now, if you want to stay up to date on the latest news that's happening, you can follow Simply that on all of our social channels. And also we put in the link in the description each of the different companies here for OnBuy, InterCultural Elements, and Frugo. All, if you want to sign up to their marketplace or get in touch with InterCultural Elements, their details are in the link in the description. But otherwise, thank you guys so much for coming on today. I really appreciate it. And thank you all for engaging and asking your questions. And if you need anything else, you can contact these guys directly. But otherwise, thanks so much for joining on today, and we will see you tomorrow.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks a lot.